Okay, so thank you all for setting aside time to join in this discussion. And today I'll be talking about how bird watching has contributed to science and conservation, and also how we can enrich our birding experience every time we are out in the field watching birds. Now, let me start with what bird watchers do. So, as bird watchers, we go out and we watch birds. We also photograph them and sometimes go to extreme lengths to photograph them. And many of us also note down what we see. Here are some example of bird watchers, how they make notes. Sometimes a sketch is made of a bird he or she has been seeing. When we watch and note birds, we also write where, when, and what birds we saw. And unknowingly, we are collecting precious information. Now, what if we had all this documentation on a common platform? And one such platform I'm talking about is eBird, where it acts like an online database of bird observations, providing scientists, researchers, and bird watchers with real-time data about bird distribution and abundance. It was created by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in the United States, and in the last 10 years, eBird has become so popular in many countries that bird watchers they use it like a digital diary. So they record all their observations in eBird. How does it work? So you can upload your sightings to the eBird website, but the most convenient and easiest way to upload your bird sightings is through the eBird app. It's a free app that you can download, and once you have downloaded, you can install the India Bird Pack. And that's it. When you are out birding, just turn on the app. It will automatically take the date, time, and location, and then it will show you the list of birds that are likely to be seen in that area, in the area where you're birding. So you just start entering the birds that you see, and you can add the number, the count next to it. Once you finish your birding trip, all you have to do is click on submit. And that's it. Your bird list is uploaded and saved in eBird. If you continue doing so, slowly you will also develop a snapshot of your birding activity. Now, this is if you want to further edit your list, if you want to make changes to your list, you want to add photographs, call recordings, everything can be done through the web portal. You just open your checklist, and as you can see, two examples here. Two lists are there. One is a shared list, a list that has been shared by one observer with the other who has been with him on the birding trip. And you can see how photographs have been added. So this is how the checklist will look like on the web. So I'm going to share this screen in a while, but this is just a screenshot of how your e-birding will look over the years. So it will preserve and organize your bird observations in a systematic way. And as you continue uploading the list, the eBird account will show a snapshot of your activity. Here you can see I have seen around 528 species, more than 2,000 lists, and some lists I have photographs, some lists I have call recordings. I can also filter my list by yearly, species wise or checklist wise, which year, where I saw, and I can download all these data. All these data is freely available to download and analyze. And if you want to study anything, all this data is freely available. Since 2014, a large number of Indian birders have come together on this platform. And if you look at the map here, you would notice that it does not have any political boundaries. And all the yellow that you see are basically observations uploaded by bird watchers. Some of them also go into the sea. These are pelagic birding, and these are islands here. So bird watchers are going everywhere and uploading their observations. And around 20,000 birders have uploaded more than 15 million observations covering all kind of districts and territories, union territories in India. And this also includes observations from birders who have had their list or notes from 30 to 40 years old. They have transferred their notebook data to this common platform. What do we do with all this data? What happens? What can we understand from this data? So the first aspect I'm going to talk about is abundance. Now, abundance of any species, how do you measure it? So until recently, if someone had asked us what's the most abundant common species in the country, we would have answered based on our opinion. There was no data or information to answer this question a while back, but now we do. So if you look at the map here, this map is based on a large amount of bird lists uploaded over a time period of 4 days during an event called Great Backyard Bird Count. And this map here is arbitrarily divided into 7 regions. From all the lists uploaded across these regions, we could calculate the 5 species, the most commonly reported species in each of these 7 regions. And if you look closely at the map, you would notice that common myna is a species reported from almost all regions except the west. So this is just a beginning to understand what could be the most abundant species. If this kind of study is done over many years, we are likely to see many more changes. Talking about the second aspect, the distribution of birds. So if you notice here, this black-headed ibis is quite a large species, very hard to miss and easily identifiable. But both the map shots here, these are map of this species taken from 2 different field guides, and both maps do not agree on the geographic range of this species. But when you plot the bird watchers' observations on the map, you get a clearer picture of the overall distribution of this species. Now, the same map, I will show you how it looks on the eBird website. So this is how the map looks like on the website. And each purple square is 20 by 20 kilometer grid, consisting checklist whereby this species has been reported. You can further zoom in the map and you can see the checklists that have been reported from each of these blue balloons, red balloons that you see. And many of the checklists will have photographs. So in this case, you can actually verify and satisfy yourself with all the information that is out there. Another example is of these 3 species from Western Ghats. So we all know that these 3 species are found in Western Ghats. However, if you look at the white-cheeked barbet, it was known that it is found all along the Western Ghats, but the map shows that it is also found in the coastal areas of Western Ghats. So it's not just the Western Ghat forest, but all along the coast also it is found. Similarly, Malabar parakeet, it was believed that it is found only in Western Ghats. But if you look at the birdwatchers' observations here, there are reports of it from Bangalore, from Coimbatore. So they also come towards far away from Western Ghats. And Malabar pied hornbill, it was believed that in Western Ghats, it's found throughout the Western Ghats. But if you notice that it is not so, it's not so common in Kerala and few areas of southern Western Ghats, but it is more prominent in the northern Western Ghats. So like Goa and other places nearby are its stronghold. Now this kind of information is very vital for conservation. Migration, an interesting topic, but if you look at the field guides, you can't go beyond the maps that is presented, nor can you know the exact migration range and time for any species. But with observations from birders, we can learn a lot. Now, I'm showing an example here of the Odisha birds, the species that have been uploaded on eBird. And there are months here, and each month is split into 4 weeks. And if you look at this example of, just a minute, of the bar-headed geese, you can notice that the bar-headed geese actually starts arriving by the second week of November, and the reporting continues all throughout the winter. And then by end of March, they all go back to their breeding ground. So this kind of information is possible with the birdwatchers data. Birdwatchers are also using this platform to study birds in their own cities or states in a more systematic way. So Mysore City Bird Atlas project was established in 2014 by the Mysore Nature Club to systematically document the distribution and abundance across the city. So the basic outline is that the city is divided into these 33 grids, and each grid is 2.2 into 2.2 kilometer. And what the bird watchers in Mysore did is they visited each cell over different seasons, and they continued doing it for 3 years. I won't go much in detail about what their findings are. So anyone, if anyone is interested to know about the results, you can find the publication in a journal called Indian Birds. But one example that I would like to share is about the black drongo. So black drongo was, am I audible?
Yes, Mittal. Yes, Mittal, you are audible. You can continue.
Okay, so the black drongo, if you look at these maps here, every year in the Mysore city, the black drongos have been reported very regularly in the month of Feb. But in the summer, like in the month of June, you can see they are not found in the city. So this is an interesting thing to see the very small scale, fine local movements of a common species like a drongo. That was city atlas, but there is Kerala, which is doing a state atlas for the last 5 years. This is the last year of their atlas, and you can see more than 1,000 bird watchers are putting efforts in documenting the birds in this atlas project. And with all these observations, we are now able to create such interesting, beautiful animated maps. Here is a bar-headed goose, and as we all know that bar-headed goose winter in India, and here in this box you can see the month. You will notice that as the winter approaches, all the bar-headed geese are the global population gets funneled into the Indian subcontinent, and in the summer they go back to their breeding grounds. And there are 3 concentration where these birds breed. One is in Ladakh, and the other is in central China, and then Mongolia. So we have some idea of their migration because of the data available. These 2 sparrow-sized nondescript birds, green and greenish warbler, they are also winter migrants in India. And again, if you notice the month-wise migration, you will notice that both species winter in India. The green warbler, shown in green, has a small breeding range in Western Asia. And the greenish warbler has much wider breeding range, including the Himalayas. But both species come down in India during winter months. They spend a very small amount of time. So this time when they are absent, they spend a very small amount of time in their breeding grounds, but majority of their winter is spent in our country. Now I want to talk a little bit about how photographs can enrich your experience on this platform, and also how these photographs are useful to other bird watchers, especially the next generation, the young birders or the amateur birders who have just got into birding. So for this, I will take you to the eBird website. So before I go to the eBird website, let me talk about the Macaulay Library, which is one of the most popular scientific library that stores wildlife media, wildlife of all kind, as you can see, birds, amphibians, mammals, everything, all kind of wildlife photographs are stored in Macaulay Library, and it has now partnered with eBird to give birders a place to permanently preserve and store their photos and sound recordings. So these media are an important tool for anyone who is trying to learn how to identify a species. Now, similarly, if I go to the eBird website, as you can see, your photographs have a chance to appear on the home page, and these photographs stay every month. There are a few photographs that get selected and they are showed on the home page. So other birders or anybody who's checking out the website, they are able to see your photographs. It has your copyright on it. And when I go to the explore feature, there are two ways your photos get featured. So here, if I type say Blight's Reed Warbler, so explore species will give a small information about that species, and you will see that there are photographs that appear here and on the right side of the panel. For some reason, I can't see the panel. Yes, so they appear here on the right side of your panel, and you can also listen to sound recordings. So for any new birders, if they are not very sure about the photos that they have clicked, or if they want to confirm whether their call matches with the bird that they have seen, they can use this explore species feature. What if I want to look at birds from a specific region? Suppose I am planning a trip to Odisha and I want to know what birds are likely to be seen there in that particular season. So all I have to do is type the name of that hotspot or that area. It will give me an overview of the birds that have been reported in Odisha so far. So you can see around 443 species have been seen. And if I go to the illustrated checklist, so illustrated checklist is nothing but a digital photo guide of that region. So your photographs are very useful to anyone who is planning a birding trip. And these digital field guides can be made for smaller regions. You can look at this, you can look at the season, what season, which species is seen, and you can see, I see Panchami's photographs here. So you might also like to contribute to this digital field guide. Now, another interesting feature that eBird Media has, just a minute, is to look at all the photographs and recordings that are already uploaded. So if I go to the search photos and sounds, I can filter it by the person's name here, contributor. I can filter it by country. I can filter it by state, by district, and it will show me. So in India, you can see there are more than 8 lakh photographs uploaded and 37,000 sound recordings and videos. So this is how the library will, photo library will look like. And this media can be used for variety of interesting investigations. Now, for example, I want to look at the plumages of Paradise flycatcher. Now, we all know they come in white morph and rufous morph. Suppose soon there would be a study that is going to get published to know more about these rufous and white plumages. So if someone wanted to see where these morphs, whether these morphs vary across its age or range, they can examine the photos and corresponding locations to eBird. The more photos and calls that we add, the more we can capture all the interesting variations we see in the bird. And not only photographs, sound recordings. Say I want to know the distribution and the range of bronco cuckoos. So we have fork-tailed and square-tailed bronco cuckoos. And sometimes photographs can be confusing to know the identification. So I can just analyze the sound recordings of different bronco cuckoos from different states of India and try to analyze which species range extends to what area. So these are some of the interesting things that you can do with photographs. And most important, and this is the best part that I like. So every time I go for birding, I carry my small point and shoot camera, and I like to take pictures of habitats and the people I have been birding with. So you can enhance your checklist. So these are not so high quality photos, but this is for my memory, and this is also any kind of any quality photographs are useful to eBird. So you can see I saw a butterfly. These are the people I was birding with. So 10-15 years down the line, if I ever want to revisit my memories, I can always open my checklist and it will be nostalgic. It will bring all those memories back. And similarly, in this recent list of mine, I was very, very happy because I got some call recordings. I found a chameleon, so, and I've written a small note. So all these things makes your checklist very, very interesting. You could also ask your friends, your fellow birders to also upload their photos. Each one of you can upload 10 photos for each species, and each photograph can be of 10 MB. So this was all about photographs, and I'm going to take some more time to explain few other things that we have been able to find out through birdwatchers' observations. I'm going to go back to the checklist. Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you about that your photographs also help in training the Merlin Bird ID app. So if you're not familiar, please look for Merlin Bird ID app. It's released by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in US, and it is a bird ID app which uses complicated algorithm to identify species from a photograph. So you just, if you see a bird, you can take a photo, or you can just feed some information to the app, and it will give you the species, the likely species. So any kind of photographs that you upload on eBird helps to train this Merlin Bird ID app. Now, I'm going to talk about some serious scientific analysis that has come out from birdwatchers' observations. So now we all know how observations have helped to understand abundance, distribution, migration. But what about the bird trends? What about the numbers? Are the numbers of birds increasing or declining? Are some species being less reported now than in the past? And what is their conservation status in India? So by knowing this, we can think of what kind of conservation action is needed for what species, and this can be planned in future. So recently, 10 organizations came together to create a report called State of India's Birds. And this report provides some answers to the questions we had discussed. So this report looks at conservation of 867 species of birds in India, and it is all because of the 10 million observations that have been uploaded by birders until May 2019. I'll share one example of this species, white-rumped vulture, which at some point it was widely distributed in India, but over the last 5 years, the decline is still very strong, and as you can see here, the reporting frequency of the white-rumped vulture has gone down drastically, and this report matches with the population monitoring being done by BNHS and RSPB. Similarly, house sparrow, which is everybody is familiar with house sparrow. Everybody says that the population of house sparrow has declined, and there are news and media covering, talking about house sparrows. But according to our report, we found out that house sparrow is more or less stable. The numbers have not gone down, and the numbers in fact have been stable, and in some places they have gone up. So in cities, in a lot of cities, the numbers may have gone down, But otherwise, overall, if you look at the country, the reporting is very regular, very constant, and the numbers are stable. So we don't have to worry about house sparrow, at least for the next few years. Now, thank you for listening. And before I take any questions, I wanted to say a couple of lines about the project that I work with, Bird Count India. It's not a separate entity, but it's nestled under a larger organization called Nature Conservation Foundation. And Bird Count India is actually an informal network of a partnership of government and non-government organizations, informal groups, and we encourage the use of this global bird listing platform called eBird. And on our website, you will find bird articles, upcoming event campaigns, profiles, eBird challenges. So all these things you can look up on our website. And we manage the eBird India portal, and we have around 200 volunteer reviewers who help us a lot in analyzing, not in analyzing, but basically reviewing the data quality part of eBird. And some of the reviewers are here present for Odisha. So maybe towards the end, you can get introduced. I'll end with this last slide, thanking the partners, the Bird Count India partners. As I said, we are an informal group. We have email, we are groups. We are in contact and in partnership with groups that are on Facebook, on blogs, and also on WhatsApp groups. And thank you to Bhubaneswar Birdwalks, Shvetashri, Panchami, for organizing this. And I really enjoy talking to all of you. Thank you very much.